الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إخوة الكرام, in this juz, what we are looking at mainly is how shaitan beautifies the deeds of his own people to a level where these people become extremely deluded, thinking that what they are doing is correct. And one of the things that shaitan does, he ensures that he drives people away from understanding what is right and what is wrong. And once that happens, it's easy for shaitan to just convince someone to do something. But it doesn't really just, and it's not narrowed down to that level. Even for the ones that have the knowledge and the diraya and the understanding, they get misled sometimes with shaitan, with his whispers and that. It doesn't mean that we don't fall and we don't make mistakes. Of course, we are all fallible, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created each one of us. Remember Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahabas used to tell him, Ya Rasulullah, when we are with you, we don't want to leave your company. We don't even want to connect with the world. But the truth is that we leave and then we go to our families, we get busy with life, we start dealing with our children, we start dealing with our families, and the next thing that happens is that we forget ourselves and get indulged into the world, and we feel like our hearts start hardening a little bit. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam literally tells them, if you were to be with me throughout, then the angels would have made salam to you, given you salam, and that would have disconnected you from this earth. Bear that in mind. And if you would go continue with your world, then the angels wouldn't even come closer to you, and you will be indulged into this world so much. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot allow you to be in a state of just goodness totally, because we are not angels. We are not of those لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون غير معصومين. No, we are of those that we're not ma'soom. We are supposed to be fallible, because if it's not for that, Allah would have done away with us, and He would have brought another nation which would have made mistakes, so Allah can forgive them. Bear that in mind. So don't forget that fact. Lakin, what's much more important is to remind each other and understand exactly how Allah beautifully arranged the verses in the Quran, especially in this juz, to show us how shaitan works and in what form does he appear, bring himself forth, and how does he appear and what does he do. أول شيء أو أول أمر علينا أن نفهم شيئا. عندما يبدأ الجزء, when the juz begins, Allah says ولو أننا نزلنا إليهم الملائكة وحشرنا عليهم كل شيء قبلا ما كانوا ليؤمنوا إلا أن يشاء الله ولكن أكثرهم يجهلون. أليس كذلك? But in the next verse Allah says وكذلك جعلنا لكل نبي عدوا. And exactly we made for every single prophet an enemy. شياطين الإنس والجن, from the shayateen of ins, mankind. Allah did not start with the jinn here. Allah started with mankind and then jinn, another type of entity which we don't have access to. Allah put a veil between us and them. They can see us, we can't see them. We can't even handle seeing them, let's be honest. لكن المهم, what you end up understanding is the fact that it's Ramadan, and then the question is, why do some people act the way they are, the way they act, or they do actions which you don't expect them to do, especially in Ramadan? Habibi, understand this. Not every shaitan is supposed to be a jinn. مخلوق من نار. No. لكن هناك شياطين من الإنس. There are those shayateen from mankind. They are shayateen by their nature. What do these type of people do? These type of people, what do? يوحي بعضهم إلى بعض زخرف القول غرورا. These two entities, while they are on the wrong path, deviated totally, harsh-hearted, and on top of that, they don't even care with whatever they do, and they desire and wish to misguide others so that they can have compatriots and also patriotic people that are under their command and under their control. They do what? يوحي بعضهم إلى بعض زخرف القول غرورا. They have a bedizening type of speech which is soothing for themselves, but at the same on the other side is tasteless if you listen to them when they speak. Basically, meaningless type of speech. How does this happen? It happens when you see people sitting together. They are speaking كلام لا ينفع, لا فائدة, ولا ينفع أحد. In fact, يضره, kalam which literally harm them. They don't even benefit them. And on top of that, they speak words to even strike doubts in someone's mind. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about ahkam specifically related to the slaughtering of animals. But then Allah tells this, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا مِمَّا لَمْ يُذْكَرِ اسْمُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ وَإِنَّهُ لَفِسْقٌ. What is the correlation between eating meat and talking about shayateen? Allah over here talks about that which is halal and that which is haram. Do not eat from that which Allah's name has not been mentioned. And indeed, that is corruption. Nothing else but corruption. وَإِنَّهُ لَفِسْقٌ. And the shayateen لَيُوحُونَ إِلَىٰ أَوْلِيَائِهِمْ لِيُجَادِلُوكُمْ وَإِنْ أَطَعْتُمُوهُمْ إِنَّكُمْ لَمُشْرِكُونَ. If you are to obey these shayateen, while they are literally deluding one another with their falsehood that they bring up, bear in mind, you're going to be of those who have done what? Committed shirk. How do you end up committing shirk? It's when you can't do things, first of all, you come up with knowledge which does not belong to Allah. You come up with a ruling which you have not deduced it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on top of that, you end up finding that Iblis and his compatriots, and on top of that, from the humanity of those that are misleading, what they end up doing, they end up making you follow that which is totally wrong. أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ. With a person that is dead, which we have given them life. وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا. And then we have made for them nur, a light, يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. And he's walking with it between people. كَمَنْ مَثَلُهُ. Would it be similar to the example, the parable of whom? فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ. The one who is in darkness, لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. And he has no way out of it. كَذَلِكَ زُيِّنَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. The non-believers of Mecca, as Allah is referring to them over here, Allah has made their deeds to become beautified to them through Iblis and the human beings who were similar to them in their caliber and their position. Because remember, they assisted one another to commit this evil. مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. For that which they are doing, it has become so beautified to become an adornment to them, to a level where now they think that they are on the right. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also made this. You end up finding that in every single town and in every single nation, there are those of the tyrants, akabira mujrimiha, whom they expect. And majority of these people, imagine this, they are not just normal people, common men like you and I. These are people that Allah has given them power. Inna Qaruna kana min qawmi Musa. Alaysa Allahu tabaraka wa ta'ala takallama an Fir'aun. Didn't he talk about Fir'aun? Didn't he talk about Haman, the right hand of Fir'aun? Didn't he talk about the examples of Fir'aun? What's so beautiful is the fact that the following juz, Allah talks about the examples of these people, how the juz begins. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا فِي كُلِّ قَرْيَةٍ أَكَابِرَ مُجْرِمِيهَا. Because in the next juz, Allah will talk about the tyranny of Fir'aun upon Musa and the Israelites, thinking that what he is doing that which is good for the people. يصنع خيرا يعني. That's how he's thinking. Lakin Allah clarifies for us the fact that in every single group of nation and every single group of people, there are those of the tyrants that they would become the leaders of what? Arrogance and ignorance. لِيَمْكُرُوا فِيهَا وَمَا يَمْكُرُونَ إِلَّا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They are literally plotting, whereas they don't even have any idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is plotting against them they don't have any access to that. But if we go further, because we cannot explain every single verse according to his tafsir, but if we go further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about something great and beautiful after the end of Surah Al-An'am, the next surah, Surah Al-A'raf. As the surah really comes to an end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows the issue of وَكَذَلِكَ زَيَّنَ لِكَثِيرٍ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. A lot of the mushrikun of Quraysh at the time in Mecca, their life was beautified with that which was haram by the devil himself, and on top of that, the devils of mankind, they beautified things that literally they do not even have any beginning nor end. Bear that in mind. And when they did this, they thought what they were doing was right. What does this explain? What they did is that they used to murder their children, and they would do that for the sake of sacrificing them for their gods. Some of them, what would they do? They would harm others unjustly, thinking that they're doing it for the good of their people, for the good of their tribe, whereas that's not how it worked. What we need to understand is the fact that not every good seems to be good. Not every bad looks good. But not every bad, if it looks good, is good. And not every good is gonna be posed as good. That's how it works. Not every bad, if it looks good, it's good. And not every good is going to be posed as good. Because the world we live in today, subhanAllah, we live in uncertain times that is so difficult to even understand. What is halal, what is haram, what is good, what is bad. Hence you end up finding today that so many times, if somebody asks you a question, you end up telling them that this is haram, that is haram, that is haram. There's so many harams more than halal. And then somebody says that this deen is all about haram. It's not just about haram all the time. What you need to understand is there's a lot of fawahish going on. There's a lot of haram going on. Hence we say that this is haram. That's the reason why. That's why we say this is haram, because there's so much haram going on, more than the halal. And the halal has hidden itself. So we shouldn't blame the fact that why is everything haram? It's because of the times that we live in. And it's not yet worse as we think. It's going to get even worse. That's how it is. But for those people that have indulged in so much haram, to a level where now that haram and that evilness to them has become extremely beautified, even when they do the evil, they think what they're doing is they're doing right. يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا, that they are perfecting their deeds, thinking that what they're doing is the correct thing. Whereas that's not what they're supposed to do. It's a person literally, they do so much evil that they become so desensitized against that evil to a level where now that evil to them is a common thing. They justify the evil to be a good thing. That's how far it goes. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them, look, قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُ مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ. Come, so that I can literally recite upon you that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram to you. Don't make haram and halal that which you think is haram, or that which you think is halal to make it halal. Not what you say is halal is going to be halal, and that which you say is haram is going to be haram. What you follow is literally from your whims. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is talking to them. And we have to make sure that we don't fall into this, that we think that what we are doing is halal and then it's correct. You see here some people justifying certain acts and say that because Allah has mentioned it in the Quran, then that means Allah acknowledges it and He considers it. Seriously. The mentioning of an evil in the Quran does not mean that it is okay. It is for us to understand and to have the understanding in our mind that this is haram, stay away from it. That's what it means. But it doesn't mean the fact that Allah considers it and He's welcoming it. That's not what it means. That's not what it means at all. What it means is the fact that Allah is mentioning it so that you can understand and us we can understand what to stay away from and what to do. Because in the next surah, which is Surah Al-A'raf, Allah begins with the story of Adam. Adam alayhi salam is the same father of ours who was deluded and given mixed messages by Iblis. And he ended up breaching one command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah had to test him by putting him on earth with all of his children, which is you and I today. One mistake took him from Jannah all the way to the earth. Yes, we shouldn't translate or interpret the verses as evil as they are by saying, oh, these verses are so evil because they explain how Adam was wronged by Allah. Hasha wa kalla, a'udhu billah. That's not what it means. Allah already had an ultimate plan. But the difference between Iblis and Allah is and Iblis and Adam is the fact that when Adam made a mistake, he recognized his mistake. And when he was in total remorse, he went back to Allah seeking help. And as he goes back to Allah, Allah teaches him, look, bil-ilm nartafi', with knowledge we literally rise. Because Allah over here is teaching Adam alayhi salam, look, ya Adam, you made a mistake, let me teach you kalimat. رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Oh my master, oh our master, we have wronged ourselves. And if you were not to forgive us and to have mercy upon us, then we would definitely be of the losers. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful and Allah is oft forgiving. That's what He taught Adam alayhi salam. But we have to acknowledge and show our remorse to Allah that we have wronged ourselves, not become desensitized to the sins and then we justify the sins to be okay just because li zamanin that we live in. Some people today, they say that taking from banks as riba or indulging in basically escaping taxes and lying to the government is halal because some of the madahib say so, or maybe because of the times that we live in allow us to do that because they're eating from our money. That doesn't justify the act that you are lying, number one. You're eating, taking from riba. It doesn't justify the fact that you are committing that which Allah has announced a war against it. Literally. You have to stay away from those. And that's just one example. Now, what's the difference between Adam and Iblis? When Iblis saw what he saw with his eyes and he decided to judge with his mind, not with the knowledge of Allah, what did he do? He overstepped the boundaries. And as he oversteps the boundaries, the next thing, instead of him looking at himself and saying, oh, I'm now making a mistake because I did not follow along, and telling Allah, oh, I'm sorry, I did not follow along, I will do it. He decided to say, no, I am justifying my own actions. In fact, what you did, oh Allah, is wrong. You are wrong, Ya Allah. I am right because you did this for nothing else but to show me that He can be greater than me. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. That was the difference between Iblis and Adam. When Adam understood his mistake, he didn't just go further and do whatever he did. He went back to Allah. And what did he do? He sought knowledge from Allah, to sought help from Allah, and returned back to Allah. But Iblis, with the lack of knowledge, not understanding Allah's hikmah and wisdom behind what Allah did by the creation of Adam, he still indulged himself into that which was far more greater than anything of what he has done yet. He only did not breach the command of Allah and went against his command, but in fact he showed Allah that you are wrong and I am right. Does a person do that? No, but there are some unas on this earth, and they don't have to be Muslims. They're not Muslims per se. Some of them are even non-Muslims. Bear that in mind. Basically, not in the faith, but they are humanity at large. And they are even of those who are Muslims as well, and they are all shayateen in themselves. They follow on the same footpaths of shaitan. And these two entities work together to do what? In harmony, to deviate people as much as they could. But the best clothing that we can clothe ourselves with in order to be helped, basically to be secured against and be far away from the plots of Iblis and the likes of him and his comrades, وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى. What we need is the clothing of taqwa. ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ ذَلِكَ مِنْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَذَّكَّرُونَ. Because what Iblis is doing, first of all, he's causing fitna. يَا بَنِي آدَمَ لَا يَفْتِنَنَّكُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ. The fitna that we see today, women wearing clothes, thinking that they've worn clothes, but actually they haven't even covered themselves. The fahisha, the immorality that's committed on this earth, so many of these that are happening. And everybody is justifying themselves, that saying, it's because I'm comfortable, I'm trying to build myself, thinking that that is the right way of doing it. No, it's justifying the action of haram, thinking that what they're doing is okay. That's not how it works. What you need to understand is that the best of clothing is the clothing of taqwa. But how do you attain that taqwa? How do you understand that taqwa? Only through ilm. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. Indeed, those who are more conscious of Allah are the scholars of Allah. The ulama that have knowledge of whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. But the first knowledge that each one of us need to seek in order to understand is not just of that of salah, zakah and siyam, but also spirituality. Because the anbiya of Allah, they spiritually came to guide mankind towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence you find that later on in the juz, Allah talks about prophets after prophets. Thamud, Ad, Nuh, and the people of Jannah and also the people of Nar. It's about building spirituality. If spirituality is gone, basically the softeners of the heart are not there, the hearts would not be able to accept the message of Allah inside them. That's why Allah started with hypocrisy and hardening of the hearts in the Quran. Because the rest of what's to come is about spirituality, building the hearts towards Allah, nurturing love of Allah in the hearts. And the prophets came to do that. All of these ahkam that we're talking about, diraya, knowledge and all of that, these are things that came in Medina later on after Mecca. Because in Mecca it was about building the spirit of the believers, of those who believed in Allah. When they were fighting against forces that were beyond their capabilities and their capacities, which were of the non-believers of Mecca, the Quraysh and the enemies, the staunch envious people of Mecca, when they were staunch envious people of Mecca, when they were fighting against them, you notice that their spirits needed to be built. And in these times that we live in, more or less we need that, but also it needs to be accompanied with knowledge. Because although we are living life as if we are in Mecca, but we are not totally in Mecca because all of the verses of Allah have been revealed. So we cannot escape from every single hukm and saying that we're just going to live like Mecca and go back to praying in the morning and then the evening and dismiss the salahs in the middle of the day. That's not how it works. How it works is that you still pray your 5 times a day. You still make sure that you follow in the orders of Allah. You give out your zakah on time. You fast in accordance and don't break your fast. You go to Hajj and learn your Hajj from the beginning to the end. You do your Umrah in accordance to the Sharia. You have to learn all of those so that your spirituality elevates. Your spirituality won't elevate if you don't have an understanding of what this deen requires from you. And the prophets came to do exactly that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides to us from the likes of mankind that literally went against the calling of the prophets, the invocation of the prophets upon them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how they suffered. And in today's day and age, we can see the fitan that we are facing, which is part of our suffering that we are going through. Like the monk that said, I've been committing a mistake throughout. This is a monk for quite a few days, and Allah hasn't punished me. And then a message comes back to him from the Israeliyat that you read, is that he was told, don't you see that I've been punishing you with the fact that you cannot even pray tahajjud? You haven't even been praying tahajjud for more than a month? Think about that. That is a punishment indeed. For us not being able to do a certain ibadah, it's a punishment from Allah. And you're wondering, what is happening to me? We have to ask ourselves, what have we done wrong? Sometimes you commit a mistake you don't even realize. That's how it works. And then when Allah talks about the likes of mankind who are shayateen themselves, it gives us the example of the people of Nuh, the people of Ad, the people of Thamud, and beyond that, the people of Madian, Shu'aib. He talks about Shu'aib. And then in the next juz after this, Allah specifically talks about the battle between Musa and Fir'aun, and a very good example on this earth which Allah said to him, فَالْيَوْمَ نُنَجِّيكَ بِبَدَنِكَ لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً. And today we are going to save you with your body so that for those who will come after you, it will become a sign for them. How we punish those who literally deviate and take their deviation to be that which is right, even when hujjah is presented in front of them. And today, what we need to do in order to safeguard ourselves, when evidence is brought in front of us, when that which relates to Allah, we have to be of those قُولُوا أَسْلَمْنَا. We have to follow Islam, submission totally. لِنَصِلَ إِلَى الْإِيمَانِ, so that we can reach to Iman, inshaAllah ta'ala. I can tell you one thing to conclude, inshaAllah. This ummah is an ummah of hope. But this ummah has to be an ummah of pursuit, because we are a people of pursuit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge us according to our actions. The little of what we do is exactly how Allah will reward us. Don't look at yourself thinking that I've done very little compared to someone else. That's their capability. And what your capability is, that which you do right now. But don't look at yourself saying that I can do this now and that's it, you're going to lay back. That's not what it means. What it means, you do your utmost effort in order for you to succeed. If you don't do that, then that will be doing that which Allah does not want you to do, because Allah wants you to put more effort in your life to show how much worthy you are to attain that Jannah, and to show how much you are far away from the path of Iblis, so that we can be saved from Iblis, the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has expelled him from his mercy. May Allah help us all and guide us to the straight path, and most importantly, may He show us and make us learn how Iblis works with his comrades to deviate us. Because remember, there's a book called Talbis Iblis written by Ibn al-Jawzi, and this man literally wrote about Tablis Iblis. And what did he say about it? He's writing about Iblis and his actions, so that people can understand the types of actions that they fall into, not knowing that Iblis is the one that's making them fall into them. Basically, the shayateen make them to fall into those actions, and they don't have any idea that they are doing so. Imam Malik, he would say that I will learn alimtu sharra, so that not because I can learn the shar, I am learning the shar so I can stay away from it. That's the only way you can learn that, okay, these are from what shaitan wants me to do, I stay away from them. So when you know that this is what shaitan wants from you, stay away from that, so that your heart can be guided. And remember that taqwa which we spoke about, that which is the best clothing, the more you stay away from that which is haram, Allah makes your taqwa increase. And when your taqwa increase, your life becomes more satisfying than how it is right now. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.